The champagne glass slipped from Olivia Blackwood's manicured fingers, shattering against the marble floor of the ballroom. Nobody noticed the broken crystal. All eyes were fixed on the stage where Marcus Chen, the quiet single father she'd hired as her fake boyfriend just 3 months ago, was now on one knee. The proposal wasn't part of their arrangement. Neither was the way her heart stopped when he looked at her with those sincere eyes and said, "This isn't pretend anymore." If you're wondering how a fake relationship turned into something that left an entire room of Manhattan's elite speechless, you'll want to stay until the very end. This story might just change how you think about love, sacrifice, and what truly matters in life. Hit that like button and subscribe if you believe second chances are worth fighting for. Olivia Blackwood had everything money could buy. At 34, she was the CEO of Blackwood Enterprises, a tech empire she'd built from the ground up after walking away from her family's old money. Her penthouse overlooked Central Park, her closet housed more designer labels than some boutiques, and her name appeared regularly on New York's most influential lists. But success had come at a price. 10 years of 70-hour work weeks had left little time for relationships. Now, with her younger sister's wedding approaching, Olivia faced the prospect of attending solo, again, and enduring her mother's thinly veiled disappointment about her perpetual single status. "Darling, I've seated you next to Charles Winthrop. He's divorced but comes from excellent stock," her mother had said during their weekly phone call, her voice dripping with the particular brand of concern that always made Olivia feel 16 again. "Mother, I don't need you to arrange my love life," Olivia had replied, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Well, someone needs to. You're not getting any younger, and the Blackwood name deserves heirs." The conversation had ended the way it always did, with Olivia promising to think about it, and her mother sighing dramatically before hanging up. That night, scrolling through her sister's wedding website, Olivia had made an impulsive decision. The RSVP form had a +1 option. Before she could reconsider, she'd checked yes and typed in a name, Marcus Chen. Marcus didn't exist in her life yet. But he would. Across town, in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, Marcus Chen was attempting to braid his daughter Lily's hair before school. At 7 years old, Lily had decided that ponytails were for babies, and braids were the only acceptable hairstyle for 2nd grade. "Dad, you're doing it wrong again," Lily sighed with the infinite patience of a child dealing with a hopeless adult. "I'm trying, sweetheart," Marcus said, his fingers tangling in her dark hair. "Maybe we should stick with the ponytail today and practice braiding this weekend?" "But Emma will think I'm a baby," Lily protested, her bottom lip quivering. Marcus checked his watch. They were already running late, and he had a job interview at 9. "Tell you what, how about we use that special hair clip Aunt Jenny got you? The butterfly one?" Lily considered this compromise, then nodded solemnly. "Okay. But you have to promise to learn braiding this weekend." "Pinky promise," Marcus said, linking his little finger with hers. As they rushed through breakfast, Marcus's phone pinged with an email notification. It was from Elite Companions, an agency where he'd reluctantly registered months ago. The email described a potential client seeking a companion for social events over the next 3 months, culminating in a high-profile wedding. The pay was substantial, enough to cover Lily's private school tuition for the next year. Marcus had never actually accepted any of these arrangements before. After his wife Sarah's death 3 years ago, he'd struggled to make ends meet as a freelance graphic designer while raising Lily alone. The agency had seemed like a desperate solution during a particularly tight month, but he'd always found another way to pay the bills before having to accept an assignment. This time was different. Lily's school had just announced a tuition increase, and his freelance work had dried up. The interview today was his 3rd this month, and the previous 2 hadn't panned out. He stared at the email, his finger hovering over the accept button. "Dad, we're going to be late." Lily called from the door, backpack already on. Marcus made a decision. He hit accept, grabbed his portfolio, and hurried his daughter out the door. Olivia's office overlooked the Manhattan skyline, a view she rarely took time to appreciate. Today, however, she found herself staring out the window, contemplating the email she'd just received from elite companions. They'd found a match for her requirements, a 36-year-old Asian-American man named Marcus Chen. His profile described him as a graphic designer, well-educated, and capable of holding intelligent conversation. The agency assured her he would be discreet and professional. What had started as an impulsive decision now felt increasingly real. Olivia had never imagined herself hiring someone to pretend to be her boyfriend, but the thought of facing her family alone at another event, especially her sister's wedding, was unbearable. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Ms. Blackwood, your 3 o'clock is here." Olivia straightened her blazer and turned from the window. "Send him in." The man who entered wasn't what she expected. Marcus Chen was tall with broad shoulders, dressed in a navy suit that was well-made but not designer. His dark hair was slightly too long, as if he'd missed his last haircut appointment. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, warm, intelligent, and somehow sad. "Ms. Blackwood," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Marcus Chen." His handshake was firm, his voice deeper than she'd anticipated. "Please, sit," Olivia gestured to the chair across from her desk. "I assume the agency briefed you on what I'm looking for?" Marcus nodded. "A companion for social events over the next 3 months, culminating in your sister's wedding. I'm to pose as your boyfriend of 6 months." "That's correct," Olivia said, studying him. "I should clarify that this is strictly professional. I need someone who can charm my family and friends, remember details about our relationship, and convince everyone we're genuinely involved." "I understand," Marcus replied. "May I ask why you need this arrangement?" Olivia hadn't expected the question. Most people she hired didn't ask for explanations. "My family has certain expectations. I've prioritized my career, and they believe I've neglected my personal life. I'm tired of defending my choices at every family gathering." Marcus nodded, his expression neutral. "I have one condition," he said. "Which is?" "I have a 7-year-old daughter. There will be times when I need to prioritize her needs. I can be flexible, but she comes first." Olivia hadn't considered that her fake boyfriend might have a child. It complicated things, but not insurmountably. "That's acceptable, as long as it doesn't interfere with the key events in our schedule." "And your daughter?" "Lily. Lily should not know about the nature of our arrangement." "Agreed," Marcus said. "She believes I'm taking on a new client for my design work. She doesn't need to know the details." Olivia found herself curious about this man and his daughter, but pushed the thought aside. This was business, not a real relationship. The agency will handle the contract and payment details. We should establish our backstory. How we met, common interests, that sort of thing. For the next hour, they crafted a plausible history. They had met at a charity art auction, combining his design background with her philanthropic activities. Their first date had been at a small Italian restaurant in the village. He appreciated her drive and ambition, she admired his creativity and integrity. They kept the details simple enough to remember but specific enough to sound authentic. As Marcus was leaving, Olivia handed him a business card. "Our first event is this Friday. My company's quarterly gala. Black tie. The car will pick you up at 7. Marcus pocketed the card. "I'll be ready." After he left, Olivia returned to the window, watching as he exited the building far below. For the first time in months, she felt a strange sense of anticipation about a social event. It was just relief, she told herself. Relief that she had a solution to her problem. Marcus hadn't worn a tuxedo since his wedding day 8 years ago. As he adjusted his bow tie in the mirror of his apartment bathroom, he felt a pang of guilt. Sarah would have found this whole situation absurd, her practical, honest husband pretending to be someone's boyfriend for money. "You look like a penguin," Dad," Lily giggled from the doorway. Marcus turned and bowed dramatically. "Thank you, I'll take that as a compliment. Penguins are very distinguished." "Why are you so fancy?" Lily asked, hopping onto the closed toilet lid. "Remember I told you about my new client? The big company that needs design work? Tonight is their special party, and I need to look professional." Lily nodded seriously. "Will there be cake?" "I don't know, but if there is, I'll describe it to you in great detail tomorrow," Marcus promised. The doorbell rang, Aunt Jenny arriving to babysit. Marcus gave Lily a quick hug. "Be good for Aunt Jenny. Bed by 8:30, even though it's Friday." 9? Lily negotiated. 8:45, final offer. Deal. As the car Olivia had sent carried him toward Manhattan, Marcus reviewed the backstory they'd created. He wasn't worried about remembering the details. As a single parent, he'd become adept at keeping track of school events, doctor's appointments, and playdate schedules. What concerned him was whether he could convincingly portray a man in love with Olivia Blackwood. It wasn't that she wasn't attractive, she was stunning, with her dark hair, sharp green eyes, and the kind of confidence that commanded attention. But there was a coldness to her, a wall he'd sensed during their meeting. Marcus had always believed that love should be warm, messy, and real, everything this arrangement was not. The car pulled up to a gleaming high-rise. A red carpet stretched from the curb to the entrance, where photographers and guests in formal wear created a scene straight out of a movie. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. Olivia was waiting just inside the lobby, a vision in a deep blue gown that hugged her curves before flowing to the floor. Her hair was swept up, revealing the elegant line of her neck and the diamonds sparkling at her ears. "You clean up well," she said by way of greeting. "You look beautiful," Marcus replied, and meant it. Olivia's expression softened momentarily before she composed herself. "Remember, we've been dating for 6 months. You're comfortable in my world but not overly familiar with everyone. My CFO, David, can be suspicious, so be careful with him. My assistant, Jen, knows the truth, so you can relax around her if needed." Marcus offered his arm. "Shall we?" As they entered the ballroom, heads turned. Olivia Blackwood rarely brought dates to company functions. Marcus felt the weight of curious stares but kept his focus on Olivia, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back as she'd instructed. "Olivia. You've been keeping secrets," a woman in a red dress approached, her eyes darting between them. "Rebecca, this is Marcus Chen." "Marcus, Rebecca is our head of marketing." Marcus extended his hand. "A pleasure to meet you. Olivia speaks highly of your work." Rebecca looked delighted. "Does she? She usually just sends me revision requests." She turned to Olivia. "Where have you been hiding him?" "Marcus isn't fond of the spotlight," Olivia replied smoothly. "He prefers his art to speak for itself." "An artist. How fascinating. And so different from your usual type." Marcus felt Olivia tense beside him. "What exactly is my usual type, Rebecca?" Olivia asked, her tone dangerously pleasant. Rebecca backpedaled. "Oh, you know, just ambitious corporate types. It's refreshing to see you with someone creative." She glanced over her shoulder. "Oh, I see the Johnsons just arrived. Must say hello. Lovely meeting you, Marcus." As Rebecca hurried away, Marcus leaned closer to Olivia. "Your usual type?" "Investment bankers and lawyers, mostly," Olivia admitted. "Brief relationships that ended when they realized my company would always come first." "And what does that make me in this narrative? The sensitive artist who finally captured your heart?" A hint of a smile played at Olivia's lips. "Something like that. You're the one who made me realize there's more to life than quarterly reports." "How romantic," Marcus said dryly. "Speaking of romance," Olivia murmured, my CFO is approaching. He's known me for years and will be the hardest to convince. David Miller was a shrewd-looking man in his 50s with calculating eyes behind designer glasses. "Olivia," he said, kissing her cheek before turning to assess Marcus. "And you must be the boyfriend I've been hearing about." "Marcus Chen," Marcus said, shaking David's hand firmly. "Chen, not familiar with your work. What gallery represents you?" "I'm primarily a graphic designer," Marcus explained. "I do fine art as well, but I'm more focused on commercial projects at the moment." David's eyebrow rose slightly. "Interesting. And how did you and Olivia meet again?" Before Marcus could answer, Olivia interjected. "The Morrison Foundation auction. Marcus donated a piece, and I outbid everyone for it." "She was very determined," Marcus added, looking at Olivia with what he hoped appeared as affection. "I was intrigued by anyone who would pay that much for my work." "It's hanging in my office now," Olivia said. "You should stop by and see it sometime, David." David studied them both. "I just might." Olivia rarely shows interest in art unless it's a solid investment. Marcus placed his hand over Olivia's where it rested on his arm. "Sometimes the most valuable things aren't measured in dollars." David's expression remained skeptical, but he nodded. "Well, enjoy the evening. Olivia, we should discuss the Peterson account before you leave tonight." As David walked away, Olivia let out a breath. "That was good. The art in my office is actually by Chen Wei, a Chinese contemporary artist. Similar enough name that if he bothers to check, it won't seem suspicious." "You thought of everything," Marcus said, impressed despite himself. "I always do." The evening progressed smoothly. Marcus played his role well, charming Olivia's colleagues and board members. He spoke knowledgeably about design trends when asked about his work and deflected personal questions with self-deprecating humor. When the band began playing, he led Olivia to the dance floor. "You didn't mention you could dance," Olivia said as he guided her confidently through a waltz. "You didn't ask," Marcus replied. "Sarah and I took lessons before our wedding. She had 2 left feet, but she was determined to have a perfect first dance." It was the first time he'd mentioned his late wife, and he hadn't meant to. Something about the music and the moment had lowered his guard. Olivia's eyes softened. "How long has she been gone?" 3 years, Marcus said quietly. "Cancer." Olivia's hand tightened slightly on his shoulder. "I'm sorry." "Thank you," Marcus said, then added, "This isn't part of our backstory. You don't need to." "I know," Olivia interrupted. "But I am sorry." They danced in silence for a moment before Olivia spoke again. "My father died when I was 22. Heart attack. He was the only one who believed in me when I said I wanted to start my own company instead of joining the family business." Marcus studied her face. "Is that why you work so hard? To prove he was right to believe in you?" Olivia looked startled, as if the thought had never occurred to her. I don't know. Maybe." The music ended, and the spell of the moment broke. Olivia stepped back, her professional mask sliding back into place. "We should mingle more. The board chairman hasn't met you yet." As they moved through the crowd, Marcus realized that playing the role of Olivia's boyfriend wasn't as difficult as he'd anticipated. There was something compelling about her, not just her beauty, but the glimpses of vulnerability beneath her polished exterior. He found himself curious about the real Olivia Blackwood, the woman behind the CEO title. By the end of the night, they had convinced everyone that they were a couple. As they waited for the valet to bring Olivia's car, she turned to him. "You did well tonight. Better than I expected." "Thank you, I think," Marcus replied. "No, I mean it. You were natural. Authentic." Olivia hesitated. "The car will take you home, and I